Hi guys, this is Kyra Nielsen with the first episode of Imperfectly Broken, the podcast. What to expect for today, just kind of talking about starting off, the Catch-22, journey in the process, quote of the day, eustress versus distress, seminar story, and the word of the day. Okay, so to get started, this is the first episode, which is kind of scary for me. It's very nerve-wracking. But it's so exciting. I don't think I've ever been so excited for something. I guess I haven't been this excited for something since my blog, which was in 2019. So it's been so fun, and my heart's just been beating with thoughts and excitement and happiness. And so I just can't even wait. I actually paid for the program, the podcast program, over a month ago. And I bought this microphone over a month ago, but I was just so scared. And it was kind of like a catch-22 because my thought process, well, let me talk about what a catch-22 is. So it is a dilemma or difficult circumstance from which there is no escape because of mutually conflicting or dependent conditions. So kind of the background behind that, if you ever read the book Catch-22, I read part of it for high school, but I never actually read the whole thing. But basically what happened was there were these pilots, right? And the question was, are you concerned for your own safety in flying these missions? And if it was no, then continue flying missions because you are crazy, so might as well, get you to fly these missions. And if your answer was yes, that you were concerned from your own safety, then that's rational. So you can't be exempted on grounds of insanity because you were thinking rationally. So it's kind of a catch-22 because there was really no escape. So in context of me and my little story, I felt like I was in a catch-22 because I was wanting to start, but I was scared to get it uploaded to Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio and Spotify, and I didn't know how to do that, but then I couldn't figure out how to do that unless I recorded an episode. So I was kind of in a catch-22 there, and I think sometimes we get stuck in those opportunities where we're scared to start something because we don't know how it's going to work out, but then we're not going to know how it's going to work out unless we start something. But the fun thing is now that I've finally bitten the bullet and taken the plunge, I feel so excited. And I feel like the possibilities for episodes are endless. There's just so many ideas in my head, and I feel like I don't even know where to start, which is so fun and exciting. I was talking to a friend about how excited I am. And I kind of told her, I said, I recognize that it will be family and friends at the beginning, but hopefully it will grow with time. And she kind of talked about that, and she was like, I love that you're, okay with it growing with time and not stressing about it being perfect right at the beginning. And I kind of thought about it, and I was like, the journey is in the process. And I think we hear that a lot, so what exactly does that mean? And I'm going to tell you an analogy, and this is totally from my psych class, so I don't get any credit for this, but if you were going skiing and your goal was to get at the bottom of the slope, so back at the bottom where the ski lifts are, and then a helicopter showed up, picked you up, and brought you down to the bottom, you wouldn't be very happy because, sure, your goal was, successful, but then you also didn't really complete the goal in the way that you wanted to. And so the point of that is if your goal is to get to the bottom, you want to be able to ski to the bottom, right? Not be picked up by a helicopter and brought to the bottom. Similarly, if you want to run a marathon and then someone drives you the whole marathon, then, you didn't actually run a marathon, but you might have completed it, you might have finished it, but did you really go through the process and the work? And that's kind of where I'm getting to, that the satisfaction and the joy comes from the process. And so one of the quotes from the class that I was in is, outcome is the process through which process can become the outcome. And one more time, because I have to read that 4 times in order to understand it. Outcome is the process through which process can become the outcome. And I think that's what's awesome. I don't think I'm worried about being successful or whether or not it grows. I mean, of course I want it to, but my main goal isn't for money, success, or fame. The goal is to learn and grow, and the process is to embrace imperfection and be brave amidst this scary and unknown thing. And I think in addition to that, it is to connect with people and to talk about what, I've talked about with others who have listened. And I think that's pretty cool. So the quote of the day, and this is also from my psych class, when I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my mission, then it becomes less important whether I am afraid. And that is from Audre Lorde from 1997, The Cancer Journals. So I'll kind of explain what I think. So when I dare to be powerful, so when I dare to do something scary, and when I'm using my strength to do something scary, then it becomes less important whether I'm afraid, because I'm doing something scary and I'm being successful in trying. Whether or not you're successful with actually completing it, the process is the goal. The process is the outcome. So one of the things that I've been learning in psychology last semester actually is eustress versus distress. And so eustress is excitement and positive stress, basically. So it's kind of like when you're excited to go on a first date, or you're ready for a basketball game and you're pumped up, ready to play. And you have those excitement feelings, but you also feel a little bit nervous. They're actually kind of the same chemicals. And then distress is obviously when, you're not ready for something, you're scared about taking a test, you're scared about maybe even a basketball game, but you're not pumped up for it, you're just nervous. So those are kind of the difference. So eustress is positive and you can be excited, and this is good. And so this is kind of where it relates to being nervous / excited can be good, because then you cared about it and it mattered to you. And if you didn't care about something, you probably wouldn't feel very excited for it or nervous, because you don't really care about the outcome. And so what I think is that doing something that you care about and something that matters to you, whether it's scary or whether it's not, is pretty great. And whether or not you're successful in it doesn't ruin the experience you had getting there. What did you learn from the process? So I just recently finished a class to try to become a student teacher for seminary. And here in Utah, in other states, they have release time seminary. So you can teach seminary during the day, which is basically just a religious class. And you teach about the scriptures and about inviting God into your lives. And you teach high schoolers. And so anyway, I thought that would be something really cool for me to do. I felt like that was maybe something that I was meant to do. And so I applied and took the seminar, and anyone can take the seminar. And so when we started out, I think there were 50 people. I don't know. This seemed like a lot. Every row was taken up, and there were just a ton of different people. There were kind of people from all ages. There were a lot of older aged women, and then lots and lots of college students. Because nowadays you don't have to be married, or you can have little kids and stuff, because in the old days, that wasn't the case. But now you can be a student, which is kind of cool. So anyway, I tried to become a student teacher. And there were 4 classes that I went to. And I had to miss choir, unfortunately, for them. But my choir instructor, she's amazing. Her name's Maddie Topham. She was totally okay with it and was like, no, go for it. You'd be great at it. So I took this class 4 weeks in a row. Luckily, I was able to go to choir on Tuesdays, so I only really missed Thursdays. But I learned so much. I learned about being learner-focused and Christ-centered and scripture-based. And then while I was taking that class, or right before I was taking that class, I was actually called as a Sunday school teacher in church. So I teach lessons every once in a while. And so this seminar taught me so much about being a better teacher. And I previously wouldn't have known all of the tips, to it. And so I don't know if you know where this is going. Foreshadowing here, that trying something new and whether or not you're successful in it doesn't ruin the experience. So you can probably guess that I did not get the student teaching job. However, I was invited to the practicum, and so I did go to the high school, and I observed 1 class, and then I taught 2 classes. And it was over a few days, so I observed on a Wednesday, I taught on a Friday, and then I taught again the next Tuesday. And it was really interesting, kind of the process and meeting the youth. I did FSY this summer, which I'm sure I'm going to talk so much about, you might get tired of it, but I talked to a lot of youth, and so I was like, oh, this is totally up my alley. I've got this. And then Friday did not go well at all. In fact, I overheard a kid whisper to his friend, ugh, I hate her. And it was right in the middle of my lesson. I could hear him say that, and I just kind of felt devastated. But I just continued on, and then for revenge, I made him read later because I learned everyone's names really quickly. I think I missed like 3 or 4 names, maybe 2 to 4. Let's go with that. Names the first day, and then I ended up getting them all by the end. But the end of the practicum. But anyway, the next class on Tuesday went so much better, and I was just so grateful that it went so much better. But I genuinely thought Friday was a dumpster fire, and I told someone that, and my friend said, oh no, it probably wasn't a dumpster fire, maybe a trash can or a garbage can fire, but probably not a dumpster fire. And it made me laugh. But yeah, it definitely felt like a dumpster fire, but it probably didn't go as bad as I thought it did. But you know how sometimes we're our worst critics. But anyway, my whole process in telling you all this is that I did this seminary teaching gig, and I didn't get hired, but I'm grateful I did it, and not getting hired didn't ruin the experience for me. Like, I still learned to be a better teacher. I still learned a lot of different aspects. I still was able to introspect about a lot of different things. So anyway, it was just super beneficial for me in my life, even though I was not hired. And so that's kind of my thought process there. So, in conclusion, thank yourself for being brave. Be proud that you did something scary. I think the process of whatever brave thing we decide to do can be rewarding and make the outcome more satisfying and miraculous. And then sometimes, the outcome is not what we expected it to be and not what we want it to be, but sometimes it can be even better than we thought. And I think that's pretty special. So I talked about being a Sunday school teacher. Well, my first time teaching Sunday school was a little bit ago. I think it was October 30th, actually, now that I think about it. Anyway, so I taught Sunday school, and I had made a PowerPoint on my computer, and I was already ready to go. I had it all outlined, and from learning from this class, I learned that, don't put too much on the slides, and do it more to guide, like, the students or guide the people listening rather than, like, teaching from it. So I thought that was kind of cool. But anyway, so I had a PowerPoint ready to go, and I thought that it would enhance my lesson rather than take away from it. But I didn't have an adapter to plug it into the TV. And so there's a TV in the Institute lounge, which is where we have church. We have church in the South Chapel in the Institute building, and then we sometimes have Sunday school in the lounge. And there's a TV in there that you can plug things into, but I didn't have an adapter for my MacBook. And so I thought, I'll just go early to church on Sunday, maybe 30 minutes before, and I'll go try and see if I can find an adapter. Because there's a ton of classrooms and a ton of different adapters attached to those classrooms, or in those classrooms attached to their TVs. And so I was like, not worried about it. I thought, I can find an adapter. It shouldn't be a big deal. And then I also, like I told you about Sister Topham, she is the Choir Institute director, and she has an Apple TV. And she was like, hey, you can totally use my Apple TV. I'm totally okay with that. So just go inside my classroom, you can unplug it, and then just make sure to return it. And so I was like, sweet. So I wasn't too worried about it. And then I showed up, and there was another ward in that building, or in that room, and the TV was not there, and the Apple TV obviously wasn't there either. So I was stressed and panicked. And so I got there around like 35, 40, so a little bit later than I wanted to get there, but I searched those classrooms like a mad woman, I swear. And I was trying to be calm and peaceful, not run around the Institute building. But I went in a ton of different classrooms. I looked in all of the different adapter cords, and none of them seemed to have worked for my computer. And so I even went into the library and I found this little adapter cord, but it was like a foot long, maybe 2 feet. And so I was like, shoot, this is not going to work. And so anyway, I tried all of the different things, and just none of them seemed like they were going to work. And so I went back to the lounge and kind of just sat there and was like, shoot. And at this point, it was like 1:01, and church was just had like started or was about to start. And so, I thought, okay, well, I don't want to miss the sacrament, and so, I'll come back. So I put my stuff there, pretty trusting because I didn't bring it with me, but I put my stuff there on a table and then walked in and, went to sacrament meeting. And then right after the sacrament, I stood up and I went back out there to see what I could do. And my lesson that day was on but if not, and I'll talk about it in a different episode a little bit more about what but if not means. But anyway, the whole point of that is that you pray for something and then you say, but if not, and then you ask for something else that he wants for you. And so what God wants for you. And so what I was doing is I was like, I'm teaching this lesson on but if not, so I should probably be saying my prayers with but if not. And so I was just sending prayers up as fast as I possibly could up to heaven. Like they were on speed dial, I was just sending them up as fast as I could. Saying like, please, Heavenly Father, help me find an adapter so I can use my PowerPoint, but if not, help my lesson go well anyway. And I was stressed. I was panicked. And so I texted one of my roommates and I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm panicking. I'm, really conflicted. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And she's like, do you want me to come out and help? And I was like, actually, yeah, that would be really great. And so she came out and she was like, well, I don't really know how to help, but I'm here for moral support. And I said, oh, thank you so much. And so she was like, why don't we just go check the library again? And I was like, okay. So we walked down that hall and there was a brother in my ward that was walking back. He's in charge of ward records. I think he's the secretary, but he's an older gentleman and he's in our ward. And he was walking towards us, and this was in the middle of sacrament meeting, so, I didn't expect him to be out and about. But I saw him and I had this very distinct impression, like, ask him if he has a cord. And I was like, why would he have a cord? He doesn't have anything on him. He doesn't have a bag with him. He doesn't have, anything really. But, it was very strong, like, ask him. And so I thought, it really wouldn't hurt if I asked him. Worst case, he's like, no, I'm sorry, and we move on. And so I stopped him and I said, hey, brother, do you have an adapter by any chance for a USB cord? And he was like, no, but I might know where to find one. And so I started getting excited and a little hopeful. And then we followed him and he had keys and he unlocked the storage closet and we went in and there was this little adapter and it actually wasn't a USB adapter. It was for a different little thing. I have no idea what button it is on my computer, honestly, but it's like this weird, I don't know, I have an old MacBook, and so I saw it though, and I had my MacBook with me, and I plugged it in and it fit, and I was just so overjoyed. I cannot express to you how big my smile was. I was just so excited, and so we walked back into the lounge, and we were able to plug it into the HDMI cord, and it worked, and the TV turned on, and my slideshow was up on the TV, and I genuinely cannot express to you how happy I was. Like, my heart felt like it was flying. My smile was as big as you can possibly imagine. My roommate can attest to that. And I just felt so grateful. And I kind of thought about this and looked back, that this process of finding this cord and how long it took made the outcome more rewarding for me. If I had gone in and I had found the Apple TV right away, plugged it in, no problem, I wouldn't be super grateful that it all worked out. Sure, I'd have been like, well, I'm glad that worked out, but I wouldn't have thought of it as this amazing, mighty miracle that it ended up being. And so this process is what, made it a miracle. And without this challenging process, the outcome wouldn't have been a miracle to me. And so anyway, the PowerPoint worked. It was just amazing. I felt so, so grateful and so lucky and so blessed. And I actually ended up using that exact story in my lesson, and it seemed to connect with people. And so I thought, I wouldn't even have had this story if I didn't end up, struggling to find an adapter. So the fun thing now is anytime, we need to plug my MacBook into the TV, we know exactly where to find an adapter. And so we ended up doing that recently for my other roommate teaching Relief Society. So anyway, we plugged my MacBook into the TV and she was able to show a video. So anyway, my whole process or everything I'm saying this to you is to tell you that sometimes the process of doing something can be just as rewarding as the outcome, if not more so, and make the outcome more memorable and more miraculous. So I didn't actually do this on purpose, but it kind of ended up being this way, which I think is cool. But the word of the day is kind of related to what we were talking about. So the word of the day is reticent. Reticent. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Reticent. And it means reserved, withdrawn, introverted, restrained, inhibited, diffident, shy, modest, unassuming, shrinking, distant, uncommunicative, unresponsive, and so on. And so anyway, I read a lot, and I sometimes find words that I don't know, and so I'll copy and paste them into a note with like vocab words. And so I was going through my words, and I found this one, and I was like, this is perfect. So the word of the day, reticent. Don't be reticent. Be brave. Dare boldly. Be communicative. Be confident. Because in reality, you can do this. So thank you for listening to this episode. What to expect for next episode. The explanation of the jingle and some fun background information about it. Some more fun and relevant stories. I love stories. I actually wrote a 10-page paper in English 2010 about the impact of stories and motivational speaking. So that was fun. And then more about my seminar, just learning about like the learner-focused and Christ-centered and scripture-based. Once again, thank you for listening. Don't forget to embrace imperfection, find meaning, satisfaction, and joy from the journey. I'm Kyra, and this is Imperfectly Broken, the podcast. Do, 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 do.